Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they pledge you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week, we are finishing off yet another year here on Commitment. And no, not 2022. We mean in our chronological watching order, because today we are watching everything the Muppets did in the second half of 1981 that we haven't already discussed. And that includes some TV appearances, some commercials, an old radio show, and even our first look at a Fraggle. But first, Sam, we have to check in because we're ending this year of 1981.
Oh, gosh.
What did you think of 1981 in the world of the Muppets? We had the end of the Muppet Show, the Great Muppet Caper, some new Muppet commercials, Here Come the Puppets, of Muppets and Men, the Muppets Go to the Movies. It's a pretty big year for the Muppets.
Yeah,
We've got
not
Fraggle
bad.
Rock and the Dark Crystal coming up.
This was the year the Muppet Show ended, too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, pretty good year for a Muppet fan out there. Probably a bittersweet one, too.
Yeah, I think we were looking at this period, and I think we'll see a bit of this in 1982, as sort of a dark post-Muppet Show period. We weren't really sure what to expect, and I feel like we sort of got a best-case scenario for a post-Muppet Show world, where we got some good documentaries, we got the Muppets Go to the Movies, obviously the Great Muppet Caper, but I think it wasn't as dire as I was worried about.
It almost feels like they're not ready to let the Muppet Show go. And as I was listening to the Frank Oz thing, he talks about how they were like, oh, we wanted to end on top. But then I thought maybe one more year of the Muppet Show would have been ending on top. Because I feel like they really were honing in on something. And if they had done one more year, maybe that would have been equally as good as season 5 or even better.
I'll be very curious to see 1982 and on to 83, 84, because in looking forward at our upcoming schedule of things to talk about, we're only going to have 2 or 3 episodes where we talk about anything in 1982 because they don't do a ton of things. But moving forward into 83, 84, they focus a lot on Fraggles. And so I'm curious to see how often we'll see Kermit and Piggy and Fozzie or any of them pop up in the mid-80s.
And they're Muppet babies, but that's not something that Jim Henson is necessarily too involved in.
Right, and there's definitely a divide there of how often are we going to see Kermit on the Today Show versus watching a cartoon of not Jim Henson doing a Kermit voice.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting with the Kodak commercials that we watched, or the Polaroid commercials that we watched this time, that they're set in the Muppet stage and Muppets Go to the Movies, and it just feels like they're kind of the world is no, please don't go. We still like to live here.
I understand the idea of wanting to go out on top, and it was clearly Jim's idea to be all right, 5 seasons and we're done. And I understand too that he wants to move on and do things like the Dark Crystal, which I think obviously we'll be watching pretty soon. And I don't know, maybe it's once you do the Dark Crystal, you can't go back to the Muppet Show.
Yeah, but they kind of do. I don't know. Fraggle Rock has more in common with the Muppet Show than it does. I guess it's kind of a little bit of both. But
yeah, I feel like that's a baby, a little bit of the Dark Crystal and Muppet Show.
Yeah. Does Frank Oz, is he in Fraggle Rock?
No.
Okay.
He might pop up at some point, because I know Jim pops up occasionally on Fraggle Rock. I don't actually know if Frank ever pops up on
Jim's not
Fraggle
really
Rock.
in it either. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Huh. What does he go do? Frank.
I mean, I feel like I should know the answer to this, but
maybe direct some movies, huh?
Yeah, my brain is so focused on everything pre-Fraggle Rock right now that I have no idea what Frank Oz is doing in the mid-'80s.
He doesn't intimate in any of this that he's going away or anything.
I'm going to look up his IMDb now to see if he did, because obviously Little Shop of Horrors is in the mid-'80s, so eventually he gets around to doing that.
Yeah. Right.
So maybe he does go off and do some more directing. he helps direct Dark Crystal with Jim, and then he directs the Muppets Take Manhattan in '84 in a few years.
Oh, right.
So
I forgot about that.
they do have that coming up on the horizon.
Right. Also, 1981, I'm already sick of hearing about Kermit and Piggy's relationship. That was so fucking annoying.
Yeah, it's already, like, we've already seen this happen across multiple shows where it becomes like the default question for people to ask.
It's so hacky.
And it's becoming worse and worse as we get into 1981 now, where it is just the thing of like, hey, I don't know what else to say to you, so I'm going to mention Kermit and Piggy right now. And it's the fact that we have, like, 40 more years of this exact same conversation.
Yeah, and it already happens literally every interview that either of them have.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun running trend. Maybe it'll be our commitment drinking game.
I think at 10 o'clock in the morning, we need to drink Kahlua. I guess that's a nice morning drink.
Maybe a Bloody Mary.
The worst part of it, yes, great idea. The worst part of it to me is that they're not even funny when they talk about it. You can tell, like, when somebody brings it up, they're like, and then they don't even have any bit figured out for it or nothing. They should have a way to diffuse it, but
I think we'll talk about it a lot in this batch of things, especially. Sometimes people aren't prepared to interview the Muppets quite as much as other people are prepared. And when they fall back on that thing and have nothing else to say, it leads to an unfortunate interview where all we get is, hey, how about you two? You're in love, right? No? Oh, all right, moving on. But yeah, I am looking forward to 1982 to see, The Dark Crystal, which is something I have not watched in a long time. And honestly, I don't remember loving.
Yeah, last time watched The Dark Crystal did not like it. So I think I'll have a different perspective on it this time, but I don't know. I think I remember the story just being like, what's going on here?
That was kind of my memory of it too. I am not like a high fantasy guy typically. Like I'm not even liking. I don't even really like Lord of the Rings. So for me, it's hard to get into fantasy at all. Yeah. And so, I'll be very curious to see how I enjoy it this time, going in with the new eyes of appreciating Jim and Frank's work and knowing more about it than I ever have. And we'll have a special guest on that episode who I know loves The Dark Crystal and maybe will help steer us in the direction of enjoying it more. All right, well, Sam, that's enough looking forward. Let's live in the present, and you can tell the people what we watched this week.
First, we watched a series of commercials for Polaroid instant cameras featuring a couple distinct arcs, one being a Christmas party that Miss Piggy is throwing where everyone is giving or receiving Polaroid cameras, and another arc set backstage at the Muppet Show where some lady comes in showing off the Polaroid Amigo. The action then moves back to what I assume is Miss Piggy's house where Gonzo sings a whole-ass sad song about how no one wants to take a picture of him with their Polaroid brand camera. Should I have known who that lady is?
You shouldn't have. People in the era would have known that this was Marriott Hartley.
Okay.
So brief rundown on Marriott Hartley. You may know her. She played Sean Astin's mom in Encino Man.
Okay.
Big starring role. Since then, hasn't done a ton of things that you probably would have seen. But in the late 70s, early 80s, she was in a bunch of commercials for Polaroid with James Garner. And apparently, these two actors had so much on-screen chemistry that people thought they were actually married in real life. And so there's this weird running bit I read about on Wikipedia where, because this was so prevalent, apparently, she had a T-shirt printed that she wore that said, "I am not Mrs. James Garner." Had a shirt made for her infant son that said, "I am not James Garner's child."
Duh.
And even one for her husband that said, "I am not James Garner." And then James Garner's wife wore a T-shirt that said, "I am Mrs. James Garner." So
where? Where?
I don't know, but apparently they thought this was hilarious, I think. And the only other real thing I learned about Marriott Hartley during this research time is that between 2001 and 2006, Hartley endorsed the See Clearly method, a commercial eye exercise program whose sales were halted by an Iowa court after a finding of fraudulent business practices and advertising because it was marketed as an alternative to the use of glasses, contact lenses, and eye surgery to improve your vision through eye exercise. And sales were halted by legal action because the method is not supported by basic science and no research studies were conducted prior to marketing.
Mary, come on.
So, Mary at Hartley, I think, is still acting. She's still out there doing it, but not in anything that I have seen recently.
But she was already a Polaroid spokesperson.
Yes. And so I think it's one of those things where people who already had been watching Polaroid commercials for the past few years would have immediately recognized her.
So this was Avengers Endgame for Polaroid commercials.
Exactly like that.
Okay. Next, we watched a clip from The Today Show wherein Jim and Frank talk about Miss Piggy's popularity and how it's nice that they are both famous and fairly anonymous. Then we listened to Frank Oz's appearance on Desert Island Discs, a BBC radio show in which host Roy Plomley, which is the best British name I've ever heard, asked celebrity guests what albums they would take with them to a desert island where all they have is a record player and also Shakespeare's complete works and the Bible for some reason, and also if they think they could escape from said desert island. Frank likes a lot of jazz by Mose Allison. That is not my cup of tea, but more importantly, he likes my boy, Bruce Springsteen, thus proving me correct.
Wait, you can't just say that. That was an argument we had on a Patreon live stream last month.
Oh, no. It was?
Yeah.
I thought it was last episode.
No, it was on a Patreon live stream that we argued about Bruce Springsteen being bad.
Folks, this is why you have to subscribe to the Patreon. This was my plan the whole time. It's an ad for Patreon. Matt hates Bruce Springsteen, and I love Bruce Springsteen, basically.
Yep.
He goes into his childhood, his career leading up to the Muppet Show, and what the crew is working on now that the Muppet Show is over. And also Miss Piggy shows up, and it's very charming. He basically does a podcast and talks about all the stuff we talked about, but he does it better than we did.
It's worth noting that Desert Island Discs has been a show since the 40s on BBC Radio, and thankfully is available as a podcast in most podcast apps. They have them archived by decade.
It's still going?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's cool. It's a great idea for a show.
Mm-hmm. It's wild to go back to the earliest ones. I was trying to scroll through and see who's the first name I recognize from the 40s. Alfred Hitchcock was the first one I recognized, and he was followed by Benny Hill.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they all just pick the only album that existed back then?
Benny Hill's I love this one song. It's I picked that 8 times.
That would be great.
But I have not listened to any of the other episodes. But yes, I am very appreciative that this exists and is out there. Yeah. And it's so odd that Frank is the one who did this at all. We'll talk about it more, but it's just not in line with sort of what it seems like the Muppets were doing as far as marketing and going on different shows at that time.
What are they? He's not really marketing anything in particular for this, I don't think.
No, and that's why it feels even more odd that it was just hey, Frank Oz, who, isn't really that famous at the moment. Do you want to come on this BBC radio show? Thankfully, he said yes.
Then we watched an awkward little spot from the Australian talk show The Don Lane Show, in which Piggy and Kermit plug the Great Muppet Caper, talk about their relationship and get into a little tiff, and then Frank and Jim come out and stiffly talk some more about the Great Muppet Caper, which seems to have been releasing in Australia around this time. Don Lane briefly was a talk show host in Australia, but he was from New York. I spent the whole time, once he revealed he was from Australia, trying to be is this a Bronx kid accent, or is this an Australian accent, and flipping between the two?
It was very strange to know that this was an Australian show and then hearing zero hint of an Australian accent from the host of the show.
Yeah. But then once he said it, I was like, oh, maybe I can hear a little bit of an Australian accent, which he probably did have for the reason I'm about to say. He did nightclub acts in New York, Las Vegas, and Hawaii before eventually being recruited by an Australian TV station to host a late-night show there starting in 1965. He hosted a couple late-night shows, he hosted 2 late-night shows total in Australia until 1983 and continued as a television presenter there until his death in 2009. So he had been there for a long time. So he probably did have a little bit of an Australian twang going. Then we watched a clip from the Toronto Santa Claus Parade, which was co-hosted by Oscar the Grouch in 1981. He tells the audience that he's there because the station bet him that he couldn't host the parade and not have a good time. We don't get to see whether or not he ever has any fun, but we do see a clip featuring a Canadian mascot named Elmer the Safety Elephant, who is apparently the mascot of children being run over by cars. Then we watched Crystal Gayle and Big Bird sing a duet called Songs about how great songs are on a show called Country Top 20. Then we watched a clip from the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade showing off the Sesame Street float, the Kermit balloon, and Bo's taxicab, which comes alarmingly close to running over multiple clowns. Then we watched Jim on the CBC talk about Fraggle Rock, show off an uncanny, unfinished gobo, and discuss how good it is for Canada that Fraggle Rock is filming there. Finally, we watched a clip from the show Hee Haw in which Slim Pickens is having a barbecue, but he doesn't want all of his hillbilly buddies trashing everything like they always do, so he hires Bruno the trash man to clean up, but of course, Bruno brings Oscar along, who brazenly insults Slim to his face.
Some other things did happen during this time in the world of the Muppets, because obviously this is a huge, 6-month chunk of time.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my main resource for checking out what else happens in the world of the Muppets, Jim's Red Book, is currently down.
Oh, no.
Hopefully just for server maintenance, but I have heard stories that there have been times where Jim's Red Book has almost gone away from the internet. I don't really know why. Maybe it's the maintenance of it. Who knows? But there are times when it goes down here and there. Usually it's only down for a week or two, and then it comes back. We'll see. If there's anything interesting in this chunk of time that I didn't find that I go back and look at, I will mention it in a later podcast. But for now, at least, one thing we didn't get to watch is that on October 23rd, 1981, Big Bird was also on Hee Haw. Presumably, they probably filmed that the same day as the Oscar the Grouch appearance. But Big Bird showed up at the same Slim's Barbecue set where he meets Slim Pickens, and they sing songs. The same song that he sang with Crystal Gayle.
Is that a Sesame Street song or something? Or
I think it's a Crystal Gayle song. It turns out a song called Songs is incredibly hard to look up. I kept trying, and it was song lyrics? Here you go. Yeah. Every song lyric. But that time he sang with Roy Clark, Buck Owens, and the rest of the cast. And then, thanks to the Wayback Machine on the internet, I was able to access a few of the 1981 Jim's Red Book entries. November 11th, he wrote, "Casting Fraggle characters in New York. HBO picks up Fraggle." So this is notable because Fraggle Rock is HBO's first scripted series.
Oh, wow.
And this was around the time that they cast all of the main Fraggle characters, which I'm currently reading through the visual guide of Fraggle Rock, which is great. If you can pick it up, highly recommend. It's basically laid out in there that when they were writing these characters, they definitely had performers in mind for most of them. Specifically, Boober was pretty much based on Dave Goelz, who is really into laundry in real life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is he really?
Yeah. They go into that a lot more in the book, but they talk about how basically the pessimistic attitude and love of laundry was straight up based on Dave Goelz.
He's pessimistic?
Yeah, apparently, or at least was back in the 80s.
Okay.
So they had sort of a casting session, some trial periods where they let everyone sort of play around with the puppets to see what character best suited them. And at the end of the day, it landed on Jerry Nelson for Gobo, Dave Goelz as Boober and Uncle Traveling Matt, Richard Hunt as Junior Gorg, Kathy Mullen as Moki, Steve Whitmire as Wembley, and Karen Prell as Red Fraggle, which we'll obviously get to quite soon, thankfully, in this podcast. And yeah, it definitely feels like we are approaching the world of Fraggle Rock with that CBC clip that we'll talk about here in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I could find that happened during this time was on December 22nd, 1981, Jim hosted an open house Christmas party in New York. It turned out in 1981, Jim hosted 3 Christmas parties. On December 4th, he had a dressy affair at a downtown New York restaurant. And Michael Frith designed the invitation, which featured Kermit as Bob Cratchit and Robin as Tiny Tim.
Okay.
And Jim's Red Book says, not to waste good art, this design reappeared more than a decade later on promotions for A Muppet Christmas Carol. Then on December 15th, they had a party in London for the UK crew of Muppet Builders. And then back in New York, a week later, is when Jim hosted the open house at the headquarters on the Upper East Side, which is the town home where Faz Fazakis is in the basement working away.
Right.
And that was basically not only a holiday party, but apparently was there to let everyone enjoy the recently finished decoration of the impressive space. So Jim's a big party fella. But yeah, getting back into the beginnings of what we watched here, the Polaroid commercials were sort of the first thing on our list of things to watch. It was really nice to see some Wilkins Wonkins energy kind of coming back to the Muppets.
Yeah, I love the snappy. I wonder is there any way to know who wrote these?
One would assume Jerry Jewell had to be involved, but
yeah,
I don't honestly know. I don't know that much about these commercials and their production, but they feel very much of the Muppets team.
Yeah, Jim slipped right back into that commercial patter where he's just like blah 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 blah.
Yeah, especially there's like these 10-second versions of the Polaroid commercials that feel very much of the old SK Meets Wilkins Wonkins things that he was doing like 20 years earlier.
Yeah, and they're kind of beautiful. I love a good Christmas commercial. So I like the Christmas set in particular. And they just look really nice. They look kind of like little mini movies. They're filmed like the quality's higher than the Muppet Show. Like the lighting is better. And the Muppets all look really great. And they're really fun. I
really enjoyed that. I think the first one on the compilation we watched, which, again, some of the luck we have on this show works out really well because the main big compilation of high-quality commercials was uploaded like 2 months ago. To the internet, maybe even less like long ago than that. But I had found these previously. Some of them had been like deleted off the internet, some in very poor quality, and then suddenly appeared before me as soon as we needed it. This compilation.
Maybe YouTube user A Bagel listens to our show.
I mean, there are times where I feel like I think there are some people that we might know in the Muppet fandom community who have like secret YouTube channels that they don't tell anyone is them because they don't want to be outed as like, yeah, I leaked this piece of Muppet media.
Yeah.
But
where the hell are they getting this high quality Polaroid commercial?
Yeah, that's what I feel like this stuff is sort of handed down like backhanded ways of like, hey, you didn't get this from me. Kind of things. Because like some of these things, like you go to archive.org especially, and there's things on there that are only supposed to exist like at the Paley Center or whatever. And it's like, okay, how did it get out? So I don't know. I'm not blaming anyone. I don't have any of that knowledge myself, but I can understand if I was in the position where I had a bunch of good secret Muppet stuff that I also would probably put it out
there.
Be like,
oh, the boys are getting close to 1981. Better start putting stuff up.
Yeah. I will say we appreciate it. And if you ever want to just like email us links, we are open to that as well.
Yeah. We won't tell anybody.
But yeah, there are some interesting commercials in here. The one Christmas party they're throwing, it was a very bizarre group of people who is at their Christmas party, which I didn't believe necessarily. Okay. Like, I like, Muppet Family Christmas. Everyone's coming together. Everyone's there. That felt like a party where everyone was invited, so of course everyone showed up. This felt like such a smaller event that it was weirder to me the Muppets they did pick because we had Fozzie, Statler, Bunsen, Zoot, Sam, Lips, Dr. Teeth, and Camilla.
But there's a bunch of them at this Christmas party, and you can assume that everybody who's in these series of commercials is at the same party. So we also got, Gonzo's there, Beaker's there for a while, Swedish Chef is there. I think this is an everybody's there situation.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels weird to me that Dr. Teeth would show up.
Yeah, that is a little off, because Dr. Teeth doesn't show up to anything.
Yeah, or Sam the Eagle. I feel like I guess Sam the Eagle has a sad family life, so maybe he was like, I'm not welcome at my family's Thanksgiving or Christmas, whatever this is. So
and he's got to be there so he can be like, this party really sucks. Somebody's got to be there to say that.
We're eating what?
Yeah,
a Christmas turkey.
Canapés sounds French. You can say that. I also think it's interesting that in that little circle, the Polaroid circle, that where they go Polaroid means fun, that Rizzo's there every time. It's like Steve was like, come on, please.
Include me, please.
Put my little guy in there.
I like that there's a couple moments in this where it gets a little meta in the way that the Wilkins and Wilkins and SK Meets ones kind of did. When I think it's Fozzie and Kermit are like, they have a bunch of cameras lined up in front of them, and Kermit's like, you should buy a Polaroid family camera for Christmas for your family. And Fozzie's like, yeah, this one's great. You can buy this one. And Kermit's like, or all 6. And Fozzie turns to him, he's like, pushy.
Yeah.
There is one where Fozzie gets a Polaroid for Christmas, and the attitude of it is like, It's so easy, even Fozzie can use
Yeah,
it.
he's so stupid.
Like, this Polaroid one-shot is so easy, even our dumb bear friend can use it.
And we can take pictures of our ugly weirdo friend, too. I wonder, they must have filmed these. I guess they filmed these while the set was still up, I'd imagine, for the Muppet Show, or is this a recreated set?
To me, this felt recreated.
Because it looked nicer, right?
Yeah, it looked a little nicer and a little different. I don't remember exactly when they filmed The Muppets Go to the Movies, but I know that was like early to mid 1981, and these were filmed in like May 1981. So this is right around the time they would have been tearing down that Muppet Show set. So I don't know. The dressing room looks different to me.
The dressing room looked different. Pops' door doesn't look different, though. But the way that it's shot makes me kind of wish the Muppet Show was shot a little bit nicer, because Pops' window does look pretty good.
It seems to me like it was shot on film.
Yeah.
As opposed to whatever video format was being used for the Muppet
Yeah.
Show. These seem clearly like they were shot on film, and it looks so much nicer, especially with the Gonzo sad song when he's sitting out on the porch.
Yeah. That's crazy, that sad song. It's like there's so much effort put into that commercial.
Well, it's also funny compared to all of these other very lighthearted ones. There's one where it's Miss Piggy's birthday, and apparently Kermit's gift to her is not a Polaroid camera, but a picture that he took on a Polaroid camera.
Yeah.
And they rented her a birthday cake, and there's all these other
like
like
that.
really,
That was really
lighthearted ones.
Yeah.
And then we like hard cut to Gonzo sitting on the porch singing a sad song about how none of his friends want to take a picture of his face.
His ugly, horrible face.
Like the lyrics literally say, "Who'd want a picture of my face?"
Yeah. And this really cool effect where he's on the rocking chair and he puts his little legs up so he can curl into the fetal position.
I didn't even notice that.
It's such a beautiful commercial.
Less beautiful, maybe, but I don't know. How did you feel about the Amigo puppet?
See, is that what he said? Hola. What did he say?
I think both of those.
Yeah.
There is a series of commercials in this batch where Marriott Hartley is showing off the Amigo Polaroid camera, which is basically like the Polaroid camera your mom had when you were young if you grew up in the 90s. It's the one
It's
with like
the cheapest one, they say.
Ah,
Right?
maybe that's why all of our moms had it. It was like the folding front one that looks like a generic Polaroid camera. But this version is called the Amigo. And because of that, they could not resist. And they turned the Amigo into a puppet who only speaks in short Mexican phrases.
And, it's not great, but I laughed really hard the first time that she held up the camera and I went, hola. I just didn't expect it to talk.
It reminds me a little bit of Pee-wee, the red herring from Muppets Haunted Mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a quick little short burst. And the fact that it looked like a real Amigo camera and then suddenly started talking and like had a moving mouth was impressive.
Yes, the inspiration for Pee-wee, perhaps.
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far.
Pee-wee was dead by this point, assuming that Pee-wee is also a ghost.
Oh, that's a good question.
So maybe Pee-wee's ghost was inhabiting the Amigo.
He was haunting this Polaroid camera in the mid 80s. That's where he's hanging out, waiting for everyone to show up to his haunted mansion party.
Is Pee-wee dead? He must
That's a
be
good
dead.
question. He's in the pocket of a dead man, and he's a fish, so he probably would have died of not being in water.
Yeah, that's true. These were like a nice breath of fresh air. I think my favorite mode of the Muppets for some reason is like Pitchman commercial, because that's kind of what they were made for.
I think it has something to do too with what we talked about in the Muppet comic strip episode, where sometimes the Muppets are really well suited to a short format. Get in, get out, make your joke, be heartwarming, don't linger. And I think that's what really works in these is that when the Muppets have to work within limitations, they thrive. And I think this shows that not only does Jim have that commercial mind like he had when they first started, but I think it also shows that they know how to get a message across really quickly and in a funny way, in a heartwarming way. They sort of like run the gamut of emotions that we get from Muppets throughout these commercials, and they're all good. You
gotta get all the suckers in different ways,
Yeah, appeal to the ugly people who feel like their friends don't want to take pictures of their face.
Yeah.
The people who are so stupid that they can't even use a camera. That's your primary audience for these Polaroid commercials.
And vain people as well.
True. Well, then moving on to the Today Show. When Jim and Frank were on in July of 1981, This clip is trimmed out from a special that NBC put out years later called Time and Again. It's this like sort of documentary about Jim Henson, but it was basically a compilation of all of his various TV appearances on different NBC shows.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a number of these coming up because the only way that I can find a lot of these Today Show clips is in this Time and Again special, which has clearly trimmed down probably like an 8-minute segment to like 30 seconds in some cases. So some of these that we're going to talk about, we don't have a lot of the context or really why they're being interviewed or what's going on. So this is just pulled from the middle of that. Thankfully, this one's pretty lengthy and we get some of the context here, but this is just Jim and Frank here sort of to promote the Dark Crystal coming out that they're like, they mention it, I believe. Mm-hmm. But really it's just a couple generic questions thrown their way by Tom Brokaw is the man who's sitting across from them.
That's who it is.
And this apparently seemed, from what I was looking into, this was done while the Today Show was recording in Britain because they were covering the royal wedding.
Okay.
So they had Tom Brokaw over there to cover the royal wedding, and they were like, hey, I guess you could talk to the Muppets while you're there.
Yeah. I guess maybe it was like a retrospective of the show winding down. Perhaps?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe just like, obviously Jim has been on the Today Show like 50 times at this point, and so they're probably just like, hey, our old buddy Jim's also in England. But we do get the same two sort of things we hear multiple times throughout this era of the Muppets, is that Jim and Frank are baffled by Piggy's popularity and her rise to fame.
Yeah.
And Frank...
It's funny that Jim says, like, Miss Piggy's really taken off in the last year. And then Frank, a second later, is like, Miss Piggy's taken off in the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, and Frank once again mentions buying a can of beans.
Yeah, again, that man's buying a lot of beans.
The same
I think that's what they eat in England. But
I guess that's true. If you're really getting into like the beans on toast.
Yeah.
I think it's also one of those things of you don't think about the fact that people are going to see both of this and the Of Muppets and Men documentary. So when he's talking about an example of, I'm not that famous, I can go to the store and buy a can of beans and not be recognized. That's a pretty easy go-to joke that, yeah.
But in one, he's sad that people don't recognize him buying the beans. And then the other one, he's fine with it. So what's the true story?
Yeah, and this one, Jim and Frank both are like, thank God I am not that famous.
Yeah.
Jim especially is like, I do not envy people who are famous. I can go out and do things, which I don't like fully believe, because that's a very recognizable man.
He wears a sweater that has Kermit the Frog on it pretty frequently.
Yeah, he's not really trying to hide.
Yeah. But he's a very recognizable fellow who's been around for a very long time at this point.
Yeah, and he's been on TV himself for a good, within the past 6 years of this interview, he's been on The Tonight Show multiple times.
He did the American Express commercials with his face in them.
Clearly, he's famous enough to be on his own commercials.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe he throws on a hat and sunglasses and people are like, who's that weird beardy man? But
like a Marvel superhero.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But Frank really is just like, who's this schmo?
And that's why I think it's even more impressive that he gets asked to do Desert Island Discs, because we've only seen Frank a couple of times doing things on his own. Yeah. He had that one weird interview where he was talking about crumbs on his head.
Weird Canadian interview, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a Today Show segment that I don't actually think we watched, because I found it after we would have talked about it, where he's being interviewed by Gene Shalit, one of my least favorite humans to watch on video, where Gene Shalit basically just tells him to do voices the whole time.
Oh, no.
Gene. Yeah, it's not great. But I do like that Frank Oz is getting out there and making a name for himself a little bit more in the early 80s.
Yeah. He feels like a man of the 80s to me. So I guess it kind of makes sense. Jim's kind of a man of the 60s and 70s.
Curious. How old is Frank Oz at this point? Yeah, he's 37. He's only 2 years older than us in this interview.
Jesus. Don't look that stuff up, Matt.
Well, speaking of Frank Oz getting himself out there, let's talk about it. The longest thing we listened to, watched, whatever, for this week's episode, the Desert Island Discs episode from August 29th, 1981, featuring Frank Oz. What are your initial thoughts on just Frank being Frank for about an hour?
I love this. He seems like such a cool guy. I think I'm going to listen to a lot more of these Desert Island Discs, too, because it was really interesting. But, yeah, he seems cool. he clearly seems like somebody who doesn't listen to a lot of music to me, because he says that at the beginning, and then it's like, here's this old jazz I used to listen to when I was 7.
Yeah, a lot of them are things he grew up on,
Yeah.
which is like I listened throughout. I put together a playlist and I listened to all these songs this morning to like get a feel for them.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. The vibe is very much like songs I don't understand wanting to listen to for the rest of your life on a desert island. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm just like,
it's
oh
almost
boy.
like he misunderstood what the assignment was to some degree. Because it was like a bunch of old songs I like, and then here's these 2 new songs that I like right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I came away from this, I think, in a very different point of view than you came away from this, because I came away from this thinking, Mose Allison rules. I love this shit.
Oh.
I was listening to this album all morning, actually. I put on Mose Allison this morning while I was making coffee. This is exactly my shit.
That's interesting. That's the kind of jazz that I don't like. It's like a little bit corny, I think, in a way that I'm not super into.
I mean, I was listening to it and making coffee when my wife came out and she said, "Why are you listening to Charlie Brown music?" So I understand that point of view.
I love Charlie Brown music. I think his vocals are the thing that I'm just like, this is I don't know, just corny, I guess is the best way I could put it. But I can see why a child would really like it.
See, and take what you said and put it in my voice, but change it from Mose Allison to Bruce Springsteen, and that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. But
if anyone else was singing the Bruce Springsteen song, I might enjoy it.
oh, please!
But listening,
it wouldn't
to
have
this,
the magic.
Oh God, I kill the magic. I listening to Bruce Springsteen's "Racing in the Street" was, I think,
That song kicks ass.
the most difficult for me out of this entire playlist.
Oh, I was like, I'm so glad they're playing so much of this song. That's so amazing.
No,
And I'm so glad that they're only playing a little bitty bits of the Mose Allison stuff.
See, I went in, I was really hoping to yes, we recently on a Patreon live stream, we're talking about Bruce Springsteen and how I just like have never been interested in Bruce Springsteen, anything I've ever listened to. I don't get it, why he's so famous, why
And I
everyone loves
genuinely
him.
think he's one of the best American musical artists of all time.
Right. So very different sides of this divide here. And I was
When
going
I put
into-
on my jean jacket, I'm like, I wish Bruce would walk by and say, "Hey kid, cool jean jacket." And then I'd say, "I think Santa Claus is coming to town. Do it, please."
He has a version of that?
It's great. You'd hate it so much.
Yeah, I think I would. Just because my opinion did not change. I think this is honestly one of the few Bruce Springsteen songs I've ever listened to from start to finish.
I mean, it's like top tier Bruce Springsteen too.
Which
you don't
is-
like Racing in the Streets. He's not for you, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I tried to listen to it with the ear of focusing on the lyrics as well, and that's what
Yeah.
made me think of if somebody else had done this song, I may have enjoyed it a little bit more. But to me, Bruce Springsteen's voice just sounds
Sounds like smooth butter.
douchey.
No, he's so cool.
See, I think he's the guy who shows up in the leather jacket to the parties who's thinking, I hope no one realizes how uncool I am.
I think he's genuinely like one of the nicest, famous people of all time.
That's the thing. I'm not judging Bruce Springsteen the man. I just don't love his
It's
vocal
all
style.
ironic, Matt. That's
What?
he's making a point. He's
No.
making the point. Yes, that these people are cool, but they are not cool. That everybody has this darkness inside of them. Everybody is like rotten on the inside. And that's why he does everything that he does. The corniness is the thing that glosses over and hides the real message, which is America is rotten from the inside out.
That is not what I'm getting by listening to this. I'm getting a lot
Okay.
more of like
Santa
Billy-
Claus is Coming to Town is not about that, but the rest of it is about that.
I'm getting a lot more of like Billy Joel vibes.
Oh, Billy Joel, that's so interesting that you bring it up because they're from the same part of the world. They're both from the New Jersey area. Billy Joel is like if you miss the point of Bruce Springsteen, you accidentally become Billy Joel. Billy Joel is genuinely the person that you were talking about who shows up to the party and is a giant douchebag. But I can understand.
That's
how.
what those two are the same in my head as far as like music goes. Like
Yeah.
going back and forth between their two songs, it just like bleeds together into this corny mess that I can't dig through.
I think I think that is like the right track to be on, because I think that is exactly like they are alternate reality versions of each other, where Billy Joel is stupid Bruce Springsteen.
I feel like, I don't know if this makes any sense, but I feel like as the more we talk about this, that Randy Newman somehow folds into this.
Randy Newman's in
like
there
he's the
too,
West
yeah.
Coast
Yeah.
of these guys a little bit. Like he's somewhere in this spectrum.
Because Randy Newman also sings like the but his songs are also all about how horrible everything is.
Right, like he has "I Love L.A.," which they'll play at like Dodgers games, and it's like, no, this song is about how L.A. sucks. Everybody,
Yep.
don't enjoy this song.
Yeah, like "Born in the USA" is about how horrible America is, but they play it at every political rally. But it's about like veterans being abandoned by their country. So yes, he's in there too.
See, that's the thing is like
You're almost there, Matt. You're so close.
I feel like I could enjoy everything about Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Except his songs.
His vocals, I think I can understand how if you don't like the way that he sings, you can just not ever learn to like him.
But what's so like, there are multiple musicians I listen to that I enjoy who people would say, "Dear God, I hate his voice." I like Bob Dylan. I like Tom Waits. I like Connor Oberst of Bright Eyes. Like these are like people who traditionally
Connor Oberst is so similar to Bruce Springsteen.
I mean,
I think.
I don't think we have time to dig into that, but that is
like in his content, he is so similar to Bruce Springsteen. I think. Like I bet he really likes Bruce Springsteen.
See, I think that's the thing is like I feel like it's more the conversations around Bruce Springsteen have always been unappealing to me on their own level. So I feel like because of the Born in the USA, like the readings of that song by like the patriotic side of things, I think is what has turned me off of Bruce Springsteen in a lot of ways.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
His birthday is the day before yours.
It is?
Yeah.
Wow. And Jim's too.
Yeah.
We could have had the funnest birthday party.
Maybe I'll give Bruce Springsteen another shot. Maybe
he's
I'll...
a Libra, just like me. That makes sense why I like him so much. When was Frank Oz's birthday? What's his sign?
He was born in May 25th. So I have no idea what that means as far as star signs goes.
Gemini. Typical. I actually don't know what that means. I know mine and I know Rachel's, and we're the opposite of each other, and that's why she's so mean to me all the time.
Gemini, the only thing that comes up on Google in the very first little preview says, people born on May 25th says you are a funny person.
And it says most compatible with Libra.
Which is Jim?
What Jim is.
Wow. Look at that. Astrology's real.
We proved it. That was the real point of the show the whole time.
Our real goal with Commitment was to prove that astrology was real.
I do think it's really weird, and I don't believe in astrology, but I do think it's really weird that I had no idea that Bruce Springsteen's birthday was around mine, but I feel like a heart-to-heart kinship with him and with Jim Henson.
But his birthday is also only 10 days after mine, and I don't like him at all.
Well, what's your sign?
Virgo?
I bet you hate Libras. Okay, let's see. Virgo? We're about to just solve all the problems with our
It says
relationship.
Virgos and Libras will have no issue building a stable, loving relationship.
Yeah, I think that's true. You just wouldn't like to listen to my music.
You are judicious and balanced. I am orderly and sensitive.
That makes a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't, Sam.
You're orderly. You are orderly.
Ugh.
And you're sensitive. You're crying about Bruce Springsteen right now.
That's
There's
you.
tears fully running down your cheeks. No, you're right. I think it's fine, but you know what? I'm being judicious right now. I think it's fine that you don't like Bruce Springsteen. I'm just trying to give you all the evidence like a judge does. Libra is an air sign, which means they're elusive and free-spirited. And Virgo is an earth sign, which makes you stable, grounded, and unwavering.
Well, I'm unwavering on my opinion of Bruce Springsteen until
A
proven
Virgo
otherwise.
and Libra should have no problem filling their home with beautiful art. The dishes will never pile up in the sink with a Virgo around. Is that true?
Yeah, it's pretty true. We also have a dishwasher, so that's convenient.
Oh my gosh, listen to this.
Oh, no.
They will enjoy conversations about current events over morning coffee together and consider joining a book club, starting a podcast.
Does it actually say that?
It genuinely says on the WikiHow that they will consider starting a podcast together. And you will never see us duking it out over a shouting match.
Unless it's about Bruce Springsteen.
We would enjoy dates to the movies,
Ooh.
to museums, and to gallery openings.
I think we've been to all of those places together.
And have we had a great time?
I mean, I'm not going to speak for you.
Libra shouldn't be afraid to rock the boat by saying exactly what they want to do on any given day. So I'll be more direct with you. I want to see what our sex life would be like. Anyway.
Getting back to
So we
Desert
actually have a
Island
really
Disc.
peaceful relationship.
Yeah, and it's not surprising at all that we would start a podcast.
An unequal power dynamic may develop over time
Uh-oh. Why?
because Virgos love to serve and Libras thrive when they're being admired. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Interesting. I don't know why that would clash so much, but interesting.
Oh, it's because I think I'm lazy. And you're just like, here you go, sir. And I'm like, thank you. It's like Kermit and Piggy. I bet that's their dynamic too. But I bet Piggy's an Aries, fiery, karate chopping. And Kermit is I'd say Kermit's a Libra. No, he might be a Virgo. Anyway, write us and let us know what sign you think Kermit is. I bet Virgo. I could see him and Matt getting along just fine.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Anyway, what are we talking about?
I think the Muppets.
And why?
Yeah, I think
Oh, we're talking about the
technically-
Desert Island Discs
think-
and Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, I think technically Kermit's a Taurus, so I don't really know what that means. But
I don't care to look it up either.
yeah, it's not ours, so who cares? But a couple things that Frank did mention in this that I thought were interesting. One, Miss Piggy shows up, which is, interesting in an audio medium.
Yeah, I
Or-
thought that was fun. He
But-
goes far away from the microphone and is like, "Hello, here I am."
But there are also pictures of Ray Plumley or whatever his face is, and Miss Piggy. So Frank brought Miss Piggy to the studio. He didn't just do the voice.
That's cool.
Yeah. He may have just done the voice for the show, but at least Miss Piggy's
Roy
puppet was there.
Plumley. Roy Plumley looks like the best British man I've ever seen, too. His little crooked bow tie.
But Frank also mentioned something that we talked about last week, actually. He is asked about Sesame Street and when and how
Yeah.
they do that. And he
This
says,
was great.
yeah, he says they about 2 to 3 weeks a year, they go and do all of Sesame Street, which is kind of
Yeah.
what we guessed that they were doing.
Yeah.
So it's good to have that confirmation exactly a week after we pondered how often they were doing this. And it turns out they just spend a couple weeks a year. They go film everything they need for Sesame Street that year, and they bounce.
It was like he heard us from forward in time. He also mentioned, have we talked about Montana? Did he live in Montana?
He did. Weirdly, I tried to look this up, and I can't find what city he lived in. There's many.
I guess for people who don't know, we both live in Montana.
True. Yes, we live in Montana, and there is mention that basically, I think when they first came to America, they lived in Montana. It sounded
And
like
grew potatoes.
yeah, and they don't. He doesn't say what city. And everything I could find online about this basically just said Frank Oz lived in Montana, but it does not say Billings or Missoula or Butte or wherever. It just says Montana. So who the
Frank,
hell knows?
Please tell us. He doesn't have a Twitter, right?
He does. He's not
Okay,
like a
we
very
gotta find-
active tweeter, but I just looked up Frank Oz Montana on Twitter to see if anyone had posted about this, and it looks
Yeah.
like he lived in Great Falls.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
so Great Falls, Montana, which is not extremely close to us. And yeah, the rest of Frank's picks there was 3 Mose Allison songs, which again I appreciated. Made my morning coffee very nice.
It's great morning coffee music. I will
Yeah.
admit that.
But he also picked "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen" by Bing Crosby, which
That's one I listen to every year. That's on my Christmas playlist.
every year, yeah. But if you're on a desert island and you have to listen to this over and over,
That's a good point. Yeah.
I understand it's good for exactly this time of year.
Yeah. And his explanation of it was kind of like, my parents sang the song a lot and I hated it.
Similarly, he talks about "What a Waste" from the 1953 Broadway musical "Wonderful Town."
It sounded annoying to me.
But
But I guess if you're on a desert island, you could be like put on the whole stage show. You could be
well, and that's what he talks about. He says
Yeah.
that he basically would do that as a kid, as he knew every word to the song and would reenact it. And what's very curious, and I don't know if it's, I know this is sung by George Gaines and Company is the credit on this. The very first voice you hear in this sounds a little like Fozzie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's got that same sort of nasally throat, voice to it that I feel like I'm not saying this inspired Frank's voice for Fozzie,
But he was probably doing all the voices as he
Right.
sang along.
He was probably trying to do voices from this song as he's performing it. And so his version of this performer probably wouldn't sound too different from his Fozzie.
Yeah, that's very smart, Matt. This is an important piece of media. I wish they had done Desert Island Discs with all of the Muppeteers.
Oh,
and
I'd
with
love to hear
Jerry
like Richard
Jewell.
Hunt.
Yeah,
Probably listen to some great shit.
yeah.
Smoking weed, listening to Grateful Dead or whatever.
Yeah. Talk to one of the actual cool ones.
Yeah, there is a song in this list that it feels like Frank Oz threw in to try and be cool. That is Ant Music by Adam and the Ants.
Which is a kick-ass song, but it did seem like that was like the last song he heard.
Yes, because he's like, yeah, me and my wife recently were just rocking out to this song.
Yeah. He was like, oh, I only like 5 songs.
Well, and that
Looking
song,
around his living room.
yeah, that song had come out like less than a year before this show was recorded. One of his other picks is Bill Bailey, Won't You Please Come Home, which is just kind of a, I don't know. It's from a movie called The Five Pennies that has Louis Armstrong and Danny Kaye, which I have never seen, but
No.
sounds wild that those two
I
are
wish they
doing
played a
film.
part that had Danny Kaye singing in it, too.
Yeah, the one issue is that I think on the original radio show they would play the entire track.
Oh, but they can't do that anymore.
Yes, there's a statement, depending on where you listen to this, if you listen to it like a podcast app or on the BBC website, they have a little thing that they say at the beginning of like, this show is not necessarily complete, and we don't have the exact tracks that were played during the time.
I didn't know what that lady was talking about, but now that makes sense.
So this is basically that they didn't have the exact versions necessarily that were played live during this radio show, and they can't play the entire thing because of music rights. So thankfully, all these songs are out there on Spotify, etc. If you want to go listen to them, maybe I'll put together a playlist that we can share on Twitter. But yes, later on in the song, which is again baffling, they didn't choose this part of the song. Danny Kaye comes in yelling as if like he's a drunkard on the side of the stage, yelling at Louis Armstrong, like "Yeah, come home," kind of thing. So
That's cool.
I don't know the context of that song in that movie, but it seemed like Danny Kaye was interrupting Louis Armstrong.
Danny Kaye was on the Muppet Show, right?
Yeah. He did the cheek with
Right.
Miss Piggy. And yeah, for Frank Oz's luxury items that he chose to bring with him, he chose the complete works of Emily Dickinson as his book to bring with, and the clean sheets for his luxury item.
An endless supply of clean sheets.
Yeah,
And
no
he's
bed.
a sailor? That was cool to know.
Yeah. Now, what about Bob makes more sense?
Yeah. You're right. I think this was really. I would recommend listening to this if you are really interested in the Muppets. I think this would have been like a valuable thing to have this kind of in-depth interview with everybody.
Yeah, it's a very relaxed, chill vibe, which is not necessarily how you get, as we'll talk about next. The interviews we get with a lot of the Muppet performers are very focused on, like, we have 5 minutes, go, be interesting, be funny.
You awkward man.
Versus this is like somebody who clearly sounds interested in interviewing Frank Oz and isn't just asking him the bare, like the normal questions that you would ask a Muppet performer. Like he's asking about his family and the traditions of like his parents being involved in puppetry and all that stuff. And it's a lot of stuff
Even
we've talked about like previously on this podcast, so it's not worth repeating right now. But it's a good rundown of who Frank Oz is as a man at this point in 1981.
And the Miss Piggy part is really funny too. And at the end, she's like, "This has been so boring so far. I'm going to go watch a tree grow."
Well, and something that again comes up here just in a second is they ask Miss Piggy about Frank Oz, and she's like, "Who? I don't know who you're talking about. Who's Frank Oz?"
I kind of wanted them to talk to each other a little bit, but it wasn't to be.
He does that
probably
in the
forbidden.
terrible Gene Shalit one, the Today Show thing. He has Grover talk to Cookie Monster.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
like it's like a James Lipton moment where Gene Shalit's like, could we have like Cookie Monster and
Is
Grover
Cookie
have a
Monster
conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah, are we with Cookie Monster now? But moving on to a far worse interview, we have the October 26th, 1981 appearance on The Don Lane Show. This is from the 500th episode special of The Don Lane Show, which is like an hour and a half long. The entire thing is on YouTube, so if you need to go watch this chunk, it's just hidden in the middle.
Sometimes I'll watch a talk show host and be like, I don't know anything about Don Lane, but I could do that. Come on.
This feels, this to me feels like live stream energy of like, Project for Awesome live stream or something like that, where you're like, you're told you're going to host this and you don't really know what's happening next, and
Yeah.
suddenly people are there and you have to be entertaining. This
Except
felt
he's done this 499 other times.
right, but it feels like this is like a 500th episode spectacular where there's like throwing a bunch of like people at him of like, okay,
Yeah.
now you've got 5 minutes with this person, now 10 minutes with this person, and this, and so he doesn't feel properly prepared, especially when he has to talk to Jim and Frank.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know who they are.
He doesn't know which one's which.
He says, which one's Jim and which one's Frank? And you're like, oh, this is not going to go well.
Buddy, you need a better producer who's going to show you pictures of these two guys and be like, don't ask which one's which.
Yeah, because especially you see immediately Jim and Frank's energy changes when they are asked which one's which. They're both kind of like, oh, okay, great. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But we start off, it is via satellite from London to Australia. And we have news reporter Kermit dressed up in his little like Muppet caper outfit with Miss Piggy, who is he's interviewing as a typical American tourist. They plug Miss Piggy's Guide to Life book, which had recently come out.
Oh, yeah, right.
And yeah, at one point, Miss Piggy shows that she has a framed picture of Don Lane that she says she bought for the frame. One thing that we have in common with Kermit is that we have also not read Miss Piggy's Guide to Life.
No.
He admits to not having read her book. And I like the energy here between Kermit and Piggy. I feel like this is a very improv-y, dealing with not a great interviewer, but their energy together is really good. At one point, Kermit is trying to block Piggy, and she's mad that she's in shadow.
Yeah, I like that part.
And even though this does result in them talking about the relationship status of Miss Piggy and Kermit, Kermit is very clear in this that he says we've never been engaged and we never will be. There's nothing between us.
Which feels so much to me like, it's just like poo-pooing. It's like not yes-anding. I don't know. Just like the energy that Jim brings to it specifically is just like, where do you go from that? You just say, okay. Or they just have the same argument for the millionth time.
Yeah, which I think makes sense that like Miss Piggy always has to be insistent that like, no, there's really something to this. He's just not wanting to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, yeah, it does just completely die of like, hey, I hear you two are really in love. Nope. Okay. So you have to have Miss Piggy there when these questions are being asked. And I'm sure like we'll see examples of this in the future where it's just Jim and Kermit on something being asked and he's like, oh no, we don't, there's nothing there. And it's like,
all right.
Cool story. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But they go to show the taxi clip from the Great Muppet Caper, but Miss Piggy interjects and says, we can't show that scene. I'm not in it. Which then leads to them showing the tap dancing scene from the first time it happens scene instead, which I liked that bit that they didn't seem to, it seemed real in the moment. Like it seemed like he was setting up this actual clip and Miss Piggy was like, no, sorry, we're not going to do that.
They did do a good job of that part. And it's fun to watch these kind of clips with an audience and see what they laugh at. Because they did laugh when it just, like panned down to her feet. Like that joke that she's a puppet is not lost. Like maybe it kind of can be if you are watching it by yourself and not really thinking too hard about it.
Yeah, and I think they then prepare to transition into the Jim and Frank segment. And when they do, they actually do show the taxi scene with Beauregard driving. And the audience fucking loves that scene.
They love that shit, yeah.
And that was really nice to have like an actual like audience reaction to that.
It made me like it more, definitely.
Yeah, it's like I think maybe I've said this example on this show before. I don't know. We've been doing this for a long time, but it reminds me of one time I went and saw Casablanca in a movie theater with a bunch of people, and suddenly there was a bunch of jokes in that movie that I didn't even really realize were jokes.
Yeah.
And how funny they actually were until I had a crowd of people around me laughing at them. And now like watching that movie is a completely different experience because I heard a live audience reaction.
Yeah. That's one of the best things about that movie is that it's so funny and so sad. And both of those things are completely like earnest.
But then, yeah, Jim and Frank pop up. Don Lane does not know which of them is which. But they do mention that they just finished shooting The Dark Crystal, which is nice to know. And I don't know, this is so bad. It's just so many dumb questions are asked in this moment.
And like little stories that don't go anywhere. And Jim and Frank are just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like the Leo Sayer anecdote and
Yeah, there's lots of like, oh, yeah, you guys are kind of weird, huh? Huh? What's that like?
Yeah. Well, I think this guy I know looks like Statler. Like, okay.
Yeah, and it's like, that's not even funny in person, but via satellite when there's like a slight delay and you're like, oh, yeah, of course. Uh-huh. I do like Frank's Frank is clearly the one of like the less patient of the two of them, and he's very clearly like, fuck this dude, let's get out of here.
Yeah. Let's plug the Sesame Street thing and go.
Yeah, because he's at one point he just answers a question with like, yeah, we're a sick group of people.
Yeah.
But yes, he does very smartly chime in that Sesame Street Live is coming to Australia soon for them. And then it's time for something that I can't believe happened. The Toronto Santa Claus Parade in November of 1981. And not only does it happened 3 times.
Really?
Yeah. Was
it always Oscar?
It was always Oscar, and
That's
always
cool.
with Sharon, Lois, and Bram.
Well, it seems like Sharon, Lois, and Bran have been doing it for 100 years. They were so much older than I was expecting them to be.
Well, and especially because I have memories of watching Sharon, Lois, and Bram as a kid in like reruns on Nickelodeon. Oh, you have. They had the show called The Elephant Show, and every episode ended with the skinnamarink dinky dink, skinnamarink ding. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I always thought that was Raffi.
I mean, that guy looks a little like Raffi.
Looks like Raffi.
The balding guy with the beard.
Yeah. I know these three.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's Sharon, Lois, and Bram, Canadian.
They don't make guys that look like that anymore.
I mean, give me some time.
Okay.
My hair is going, Sam. I got to grow out this beard to compensate.
I'll come back around. All right.
I'll be a Bram in no time. But yeah, this is Sharon, Lois, and Bram, who were, maybe the Canadian Raffi. I don't know. Raffi might be Canadian himself.
Was Raffi Canadian?
I don't know.
Seems like he could have been.
But yeah, they had a show called The Elephant Show, which is why at one point in this clip, when they were looking at Elmer the safety elephant, Lois says, he looks like our elephant, which he doesn't at all. If you've seen the elephant from The Elephant Show, they look very different from Elmer.
Yeah, that's what they meant. Oh, okay. Raffi is indeed Canadian and is actually knighted in Canada.
Wow. Well, okay. Apparently, all these children's entertainers of our childhood are Canadian. Who knew?
Yeah.
But yeah, Oscar the Grouch is hosting a Christmas parade. I want this entire tape. Like we only
I want
get
it to
like
still be a thing that happens. Muppets should be hosting every parade.
But specifically Oscar's energy. I feel like it's such an interesting choice for a parade.
Yeah.
That is supposed to be sweet and nice. And then there's a couple moments in here where clearly Carol Spinney has no idea what to say next because they're talking about children being hit by cars and he's like, oh, okay.
It's like the world famous Elmer the safety elephant and he goes,
Yeah. Surprisingly dark turn when they're talking about Elmer the safety elephant. I looked up Elmer the safety elephant, who is apparently still in use in Canada. There's a flag, an Elmer the safety elephant flag, that Sharon, Lois, and Bram refers to during this segment and says, it was always a sad time when we lost the Elmer flag because that meant a kid had been hurt by a car.
Yeah.
And then
when they would fly the Elmer flag, it means a child had been hit by.
No, opposite.
Oh.
Schools with a perfect.
Oh, would take it down.
Yes. So basically, the Elmer, the safety elephant, like administration, whatever, the Canada Safety Board, schools with perfect safety records got to proudly fly the Elmer flag.
Okay.
But it would be, as this website I found referred to it, cruelly revoked with just one accident or act of unsafe behavior. So basically, if your school wasn't flying the Elmer flag, people knew that you had been unsafe in some way.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure on children.
It's a sign of shame. It's like, hey, you don't have your flag? Seems a kid has been hit by a car here recently.
Jesus. Okay. They're doing things different up there in Canada.
Yeah, I have some Canadian friends that I think this was mostly a thing in Toronto, it seemed like. I don't think it was like a Canada-wide thing, but I do need to check in with some of my Canadian friends and be like, do you know who this elephant is? Because it was apparently designed, the original Elmer was designed by the same guy who designed, or at least helped design Bugs Bunny.
Oh.
But yeah, Sharon, Lois, and Bram are here with Oscar. They apparently did this 3 times in a row, I believe. And
it's really smart. I would love to see them go back and forth and him say, this sucks, and them say, no, it doesn't. And he'll be like, all right, I guess this is okay.
And like trying to control his joy when Santa Claus comes out.
Yeah, it's better than seeing Al Roker for the 1 millionth time.
Yeah, I'm sure we will get some more Oscar and parade things. I think they do some Macy's Day things, and maybe I don't know if there's any more clips from the Toronto Santa Claus parade with Oscar. But if they are if they're out there and you know where they are, send them to us, or I will try and track them down.
Somebody
and find
has
them.
that whole parade taped for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened with some of the Macy's Day parades. Is that like I know just recently the 1982 parade was uploaded to YouTube, and like people didn't realize the Muppets were even in that one until this tape was uploaded. But we've got at least something cute to focus on and try to forget about Blinky and Sparky right now because we have Big Bird performing with Crystal Gale on November 21st, 1981. It's just cute.
Yeah, it's just a nice little kind of variety show thing like they did in the 70s. They just come out and for Big Bird's there for basically no reason, it seems like.
Especially for the first half of the number. I just thought he wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah, he's just kind of there.
He's just kind of bobbing around, dancing a little bit, and didn't join in singing until quite late. And so I was just like, is he just going to stand there the whole time?
He's her hype man.
I'm very. You saying Big Bird as a hype man makes me very worried about the 90s and when the Muppets try and be like cool and with it in terms of like hip hop things.
Oh.
I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, well, we've already seen Jim rap in those commercials we watched for...
That's true, the Muppet Meeting films.
Yeah, so we know it's coming big time.
November 26, 1981 brings us the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And yeah, as Sam mentioned, we basically like three little segments here. We get the Sesame Street gang on their float singing Keep Christmas With You all through the year. We get the Kermit balloon, and then we get Beauregard running over some clowns.
Yeah. It would be so annoying to be walking by. So it's just a little Beauregard taxi cab driving around. It'd be so annoying to be one of the people walking near that thing and having to just like keep your head on a swivel as this taxi cab stops like inches from your shins. Is that what was happening?
It seemed like it. I mean, maybe they were part of it. Like maybe that was the gag is like, hey, let's hire some stuntmen and dress up as clowns and try to hit them with this taxi.
Yeah.
But it seems like an accident.
And the taxi is moving so unpredictably.
Yeah. So hopefully that was all rehearsed and they all knew that was happening to them.
One of the clowns looks really mad.
That's just his face paint. But the Sesame Street gang is singing Keep Christmas With You all through the year, which is from the Christmas Eve on Sesame Street, which is the good one of the Sesame Street Christmas specials.
Mm-hmm. I thought it sounded familiar.
And there's also, if you listen really closely in the background, when they're showing off Beauregard in the taxi, you can hear like a marching band version of Being Green.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. There's
Muppets and Parades, really a match made in heaven, in my opinion.
It's true. We had the Christmas thing happening at Disneyland this past year where they were on that little car singing some Christmas songs. That was delightful.
Yeah.
But then there's a bizarre moment that happens in the middle of this Muppet segment where we cut to Donny Osmond, and he seems not okay.
He seems mad, right?
They ask how he's doing, and he seems very cold. And at first he's like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm a bit cold. And then he like pauses for a moment and looks away, and he like looks up. He's like, yeah, I'm okay. And you're like, that sounds like the voice of a man who's not okay.
It's really early in the morning.
I think he's just frozen. I think it's the problem right now.
Yeah.
But he starts talking about Alvin and the Chipmunks and how we're seeing them on screen, but we're not. We're watching Beauregard's taxi run over some clowns.
Do we ever see Alvin and the Chipmunks?
I'm sure at some point, but I didn't watch that long. I'm not going to watch a whole 1981 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. This was apparently during sort of like a downslide in Donny Osmond's career. I was looking up on Wikipedia to try and see like what was going on at this time, and it seemed like this was sort of the era where Donny Osmond wasn't doing a whole lot. He was doing some TV appearances on like The Love Boat and stuff. But there was some story apparently where his publicist or something suggested that he should get arrested for drug possession to try and seem cooler.
Oh my God.
He did not. But apparently...
That's grim.
Yeah. He was just seen as so uncool that his publicist was like, maybe you should get arrested for drug possession or something.
We got to get this kid hooked on coke. Come on. Did he tell people that or what?
He must have. I didn't look up the source on that, but
Wrote it in his memoir?
Something tells me that he probably was telling people, yeah, I had to fire a publicist in the 80s because they told me I should get arrested for drugs.
Can you imagine your publicist calling you and being like, we're going to plant some drugs on you and call the cops? Like, no.
Please don't.
I'll just be on the Love Boat. It's fine.
It's like, no, Donnie, that's the wrong direction. Don't you understand? Yeah, he has a whole like public image section on his Wikipedia page where it basically says that he has had a tremendous public image struggle since Donnie and Marie ended in 1979.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's corny as hell and people think he's married to his sister.
That's very true.
Tough road to hoe for old Donnie.
Yeah, he needs a shirt that just says, I'm not married to my sister.
I'm not Mr. Murray Osmond.
Okay, I looked up this interview. It was with BBC News in the like early 2000s. And it says, in the 80s, Donnie's career had been in the doldrums. At just 20, he was told he was a has-been. And he said, I remember hiring a publicist who figured out this whole campaign to get me busted for drugs and change my image. He said, you should start drinking, at least get caught with a drink in your hand, go to some parties, get some pictures with booze in your hands. And, you know, I considered it for 5 minutes. But is that what I have to do to get music heard?
Poor guy. That would be really horrible for them to be like, you're washed up, kid.
You're washed
You're
up.
19 and a half.
Go to a fucking party. Just trying to send in like Studio 54. Be like, come on, do something cool.
I think I'll stay in and knit with my sister.
We're each going to knit a half of a scarf, and then we're going to meet them in the middle.
Donald, you can't.
Well, moving on to a much cooler man who wears his own merchandise. It's Jim Henson on the CBC. Talking about Fraggle Rock for the very first time publicly that I have found in any way. And shows off a very early Gobo puppet. This is from December 3rd, 1981, as far as I could find and confirm. Gobo looks a little weird here. And at first you might be wondering why. Like, obviously he's wearing different clothes. The main thing, Gobo has no eyelids.
Yeah, and it really makes him look off. He doesn't have the kind of mellow expression on his face.
Yeah, at first I thought this was like just like a test puppet, like everything was different about it. And then like looking side by side, I was like, oh, the only real difference is like he's not wearing his striped shirt and vest, and he doesn't have eyelids. But it's the same puppet, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you can see him on the Muppet Wiki, that picture of that version of it. He does look the same face structure and all that.
And this Gobo looks a lot like the early concept drawings that are in the visual guide. He has this sort of like cardigan sweater open look that he's rocking in this CBC interview, as opposed to a striped shirt and vest that he'll get later. So
the Fraggles have great clothes.
there's again, I don't want to harp on it too much, but like really that visual guide is worth reading and checking out because it talks so much about the development of these characters and how they were so set on. They wanted to be very clearly different from the Muppets. Like these weren't clearly animals, but they all were the same species. But they also had to differentiate them to make them all different. So their hair is all different, the colors are all different, and how they had to focus on like making very clear character choices in the designs, which clearly they did a great job of.
Yeah.
Wembley has that cute little Hawaiian shirt.
How does a Fraggle know what Hawaii is?
Uncle Traveling Matt reported back.
And brought him the shirt.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll learn the origins of Wembley's shirt when we get into Fraggle Rock.
When they said it was filmed in Canada, I was like, that explains a lot about Fraggle Rock.
Well, and it seemed largely based on the history of filming the early specials there, and like Emmett Otter and the Frog Prince or Hey Cinderella, whichever one they filmed up there, maybe both of them. But I think it's just Jim had a good relationship with the people in Canada who he had worked with previously, and so he wanted to work with some of them again. So he did that, and I'm sure they found a good deal of like, hey, you want this cool? Basically, Jim could do kind of whatever he wanted at this point. He was coming off of the Muppet Show. People wanted the next Jim Henson project, and so this was a big deal, I think, for the CBC. But in the middle of this, we get a random flash of a full-body Miss Piggy costume.
Of what basically looks like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
As he has skinned Miss Piggy and is wearing her flesh.
Wearing her around. And it's genuinely Like, I feel like you can be like, oh, that's a nightmare fuel. This genuinely is very creepy.
Yeah, it's basically from shoulders down, just a woman in like an elegant gown with a feather boa. But the head is like an oversized Halloween mask of Miss Piggy.
Bad, and a bad one at that.
Yes. And I can't find where this is from. I have seen no record of a full body Miss Piggy costume that looks like this.
It's like when you get on a stock image website and you're like, woman dressed as pig, and then you get
Yeah.
the most nightmarish imagery you've ever seen.
It's the Spirit Halloween costume Diva Pig.
Yeah.
Just like, I think you mean Miss Piggy, and then you see it, you're like, oh, you don't mean Miss Piggy. That's not Miss Piggy.
Yeah. And they're like, is Miss Piggy upset that she doesn't get her own show? And it's showing this foreboding Miss Piggy. And Jim's like, yes, absolutely. She's coming for us right now.
I have to go. But yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
hiding out in Canada. That's why I'm here.
But I'm wondering if that's like a bootleg Miss Piggy or something that I don't know why it would exist.
It just seems like something. Yeah, it seems like they had footage of that from like a Halloween show or something at the movie studio.
Yeah.
Where that's doing the story.
Yeah, maybe like one of the news anchors had previously been Miss Piggy for Halloween, and they're like, yeah, we got some of that. But finally, we have Oscar the Grouch's appearance on Hee Haw from December 12th, 1981. As Sam alluded to, this is basically just Slim Pickens throwing a barbecue, which he did regularly on Hee Haw, and is mad at his friends for making such a mess, so he hires Bruno the trash man to clean up after the barbecue. And he says, throw all your trash in this trash can right here. And Oscar jumps out and says, not in this trash can.
Sometimes he wants trash, sometimes he doesn't want trash. You gotta make up his mind.
He's very particular about his trash.
Yeah. Barbecue trash seems like it'd be delightful, but maybe it's too tasty for him to want.
It's too much. It's too good. Because like I wouldn't mind being in a trash can full of barbecue,
No. No. I mean, if you had to be in a trash can,
full of anything.
why not? Yeah.
But it would be like I guess like discarded barbecue.
Sure, somebody already put their mouth all over it.
Yeah, it's just like a rib with like
And
a
it's
little
the
bit of meat on it.
bones. Yeah. But Matt would love to be in that. So, folks, I don't know what that says about him, but
Hates Bruce Springsteen, loves barbecue trash.
yeah.
What'd you think of Hee Haw?
I don't even understand what the hell Hee Haw is.
I think it's like Saturday Night Live for Tennessee.
I didn't know that it had like characters or whatever. I mean, I know Slim Pickens is real, but this
Are you
seemed like
sure?
this seemed like so much more of a like setup than I was expecting. Like, there's a place they live, and I guess there's a bunch of reoccurring characters. I'm looking at them right now. The Moonshiners, Lulu's Truck Stop. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to check out an episode of Hee Haw. But I thought this was fine. It was kind of like unsettling in a way for me for some reason. I don't know. I was like Uncanny Valley TV show or something. But
Like it almost feels like a fake show within a show kind of thing.
yeah. Like somebody would flip on. Do you ever watch? You know who Ed Grimley is? He's a Martin Short character. There's a cartoon called like the
Yeah, he's got the
Wonderful
spiky up
World.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy says, I must say, he had a cartoon show and he would watch real stuff. He would like turn on the TV and it would be a real show. This feels like Slim Pickens would pop up and be like, hey there, let's have a jamboree. He'd be like, oh, this is my favorite show, I must say.
Well, that is it for this Grab Bag 1981 episode, which means it's time for our Muppet of the Week. This week's Muppet of the Week is one that I cannot believe we have not previously discussed. Somehow, it's Tamanella Grinderfall.
Oh.
I was going through my big list of Muppets that we have discussed on this show, looking for one that I haven't discussed already, and Tamanella is one of those who...
Yeah, we love Tamanella.
Yeah, and I think maybe what happened is in the early days, I was like, we don't need to give her own segment. There's not that much to say. We'll have plenty of Muppets to talk about going forward. And then by the time we're talking about George the Janitor, I'm probably like, uh-oh, we need to talk about Tamanella because she's more interesting. So I think we may have covered some of these things about Tamanella in a previous episode when we were talking about her, but I wanted to give her own segment so that way we could give her a proper rating and talk about our love for Tamanella, a very underused character. For those that don't know, Tamanella Grinderfall is the witchiest witch of them all. And at the time when she was created, Jim Henson said that it was the best Muppets character yet that they had created. So high praise for a character that they would barely use. She is a very round-headed, pinkish-purple witch character with like a single spiky tooth and two very close-together eyes. She's a fantastic Don Sahlin design from the earliest days of Don Sahlin working with the Muppets. It was like pretty much like Rolf and then Tamanella were like two of his first Muppets he was designing. Tamanella made her debut in the 1962 special Tales of the Tinker D, which we talked about forever ago on
like
this
episode
podcast.
3 or something.
It was episode 3 when we watched both of the Tinker Ds for this podcast. So you can go all the way back to episode 3 if you want to hear us when we don't know much about Muppets talking about that special. But then Tamanella was only used a handful of times after this. In 1965, she was in the Shrinkle and Stretchel commercials.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a very weird commercial, like for fabric that like wouldn't shrink.
Like a fairy tale, not even a commercial. It was like a trade video or something. It was like 4 people buying huge bolts of fabric.
Yes, basically like for Pack Knit RX fabric.
Yeah.
This little Hansel and Gretel story where Tamanella was the witch.
The witch. Shrinkle and Stretchel. Great names.
And then Tamanella showed up on the Muppets on Puppets special in 1968. Obviously, because they had, just a few handfuls of puppets to show off. So they used her for that. 1969, she shows up on Sesame Street in the first season of Sesame Street, which is, that first season of Sesame Street, they didn't have as many Muppets ready to go. So Beautiful Day Monster's there, Tamanella's there. They were like, I don't know, we got these guys.
Yeah. That led to a great tradition of like monsters on Sesame Street, though.
Oh, yeah. I just kind of, Tamanella should have lived on somewhere. Like, why couldn't they just let her live on Sesame Street?
Yeah, it would have been fun to have a bad guy on Sesame Street, kind of.
She could have been friends with the Count. Well, in 1971, though, we get the last appearance of Tamanella. Just about 9 years after her first appearance, she is in The Frog Prince, where she is the villain in that. This time, she is a full body puppet, not just a live hand puppet. And I don't love the puppeteering in The Frog Prince quite as much as Hey Cinderella and previous specials, because they have those weird full body King and Tamanella puppets that clearly just are a person hunched under a thing.
Yeah.
But I love Tamanella in that.
Yeah. It's nice to have her back.
And after that, Tamanella was never used again. She was, however, weirdly, last seen in a Christmas-themed coloring book from 1983 called Merry Christmas with the Muppets. And there's no reason for her to be there. There's just this large party scene in the backstage of the Muppet Show in that coloring book. And she's just down, tucked into the corner, drinking some eggnog or something. So that to me just feels like the artist was like, I'm going to slip this in there. No one will notice.
But how did they know about her?
I mean, the guy who's drawn this is probably 40, so.
I guess so.
If he worked with the Muppets consistently, he was probably I miss that Tamanella. As far as performers go, Jerry Jewell was the earliest performer of Tamanella and the main performer of Tamanella, which is rare because we don't say his name a lot in regards to performing, because as far as I know, it's pretty much his only character.
Yeah.
He probably did some puppeteering, with Jim and Frank in some of the other commercials, et cetera, things he helped out with early on. But as far as a actual named character that Jerry Jewell performs, this is pretty much it. And he does such a fantastic job.
He's so funny. His delivery is so good.
Yeah. The fact that he wrote the lines that he gets to perform and he performs them greatly, just oh man, Jerry Jewell. I understand that his skill was writer, but he was underutilized as a performer, I think.
You could have brought Tamanella out every now and then. A witch is a great thing to have in your back pocket for a cast of characters.
Well, I don't even think Tamanella gets to show up at the 30-year celebration of Jim Henson, where everybody else, even the Salmon Friends puppets come back for that. I don't think Tamanella does.
Does she not get to go? She doesn't get to go to Kermit's wedding or anything like that either?
No.
And she's not in the end of a Muppet movie?
No, I don't think so.
What the hell?
At least on Muppet Wiki, it is not listed that she appears in there, and it says that in 1971, she was never used in a Henson production again. So that's a bummer. Frank Oz is the one who performed her on Sesame Street in season 1. And in The Frog Prince, while Jerry Jewell still did the voice, Richard Hunt was the one doing the full body puppeteering for Tamanella in that. There were some other uses, at least planned, for Tamanella. Originally, the script for the Great Santa Claus switch was called The Witch Who Stole Christmas.
Oh.
And Tamanella was going to be the villain.
Oh. Well, I like the villain we got, but...
That's the thing, is like I want both of those movies to exist.
Yeah.
Like I really, really like the Great Santa Claus switch, and I'm probably going to watch it again this Christmas. But I do want a version of that is just like Tamanella swapped in.
The Witch Who Stole Christmas sounds great, even though it's probably just like Nightmare Before Christmas, but...
Well, see, I just make it the same movie. Just replace the like wizard guy with Tamanella, because imagine her dressing up as Santa and pretending to be Santa.
Oh my gosh. And screaming at all the frackles down there.
Yeah. Getting to scream at Thog and Thig.
Yeah.
And like we saw, she is a master of disguise in Tinker D, where she could pretend to be the king's daughter.
Oh, there's another universe where Tinker D was a big deal, and that was fun.
This is one of those things where I want Tamanella to come back in some way. I don't know how they can do it. I don't know where they would make sense to do it, but when
they hire us, we'll bring her back.
I feel like I wonder if it's caught up in the weird ownership thing, because we talked about previously, the Jim Henson legacy was able to basically take ownership of some of the puppets that were no longer production ready. So they were probably given the Tamanella puppets. So I don't know necessarily would Disney be able to put Tamanella into a movie? Or
I would guess not.
Could Sesame Street bring Tamanella into Sesame Street?
Yeah.
Like, who would Tamanella belong to is probably a gray area that no one cares about enough. But it's like I think it's the Jim Henson world of characters sort of feels like when they're talking about like Marvel characters and deciding like, okay, who can we do a movie about? We don't have the rights to this person because Fox owns the rights to them or Sony owns the rights to them, so we can only include this person in this movie.
We can use Spider-Man, but then we have to give them a character for 10 minutes, and then they have to give us a character for 3 minutes, and Or
the even weirder theme park rules where, like, east of the Mississippi, Universal can have Marvel characters in their park, but Disney can't. And then west of the Mississippi, Disney can use Marvel characters.
Yeah. Or like how they traded Oswald the Lucky Rabbit for that sportscaster.
Yeah. Ugh, so weird. And yeah, maybe someday we'll be able to talk to somebody on this podcast that will have some answers for us. But for now, we just know that Tamanella was once used as a character named Tommy in a Kern's Bakery commercial where they just reused the puppet.
Uh-huh.
But since 2015, Tamanella Grinderfall lives in two places: the Center for Puppetry Arts and the Museum of the Moving Image. And they both have on display her different versions from the Frog Prince. So they're both the full-body Tamanellas. The one where she's in her disguise as, like, royalty, where she's pretending to be an ant, like the aunt of the princess.
Mm-hmm.
That one is at the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta. And then the Museum of the Moving Image in New York has her full-body, not in disguise form from the Frog Prince.
Right.
But yeah, that is it on Tamanella Grinderfall, unfortunately. One of the best characters most people haven't seen, which is a real bummer.
Yeah.
I think she's like definitely one of the best Muppets, but she's in so much early stuff that most people can't easily watch that they don't even know she exists.
Yeah.
So what would you rate her out of 10?
I agree that she's one of the best Muppets. Her design is great. Classic Don Celine design. Her voice is great. Her lines are hilarious. I'll give her a 9 out of 10.
I put her down as an 8 out of 10 simply because I feel like the wasted potential brings her down a little bit in my eyes.
That's why she's a 9 for me.
Yeah. I think 10 out of 10 if she had continued on being used, but unfortunately gets marked down a little bit for not really getting to shine.
Yeah. I hope I hope Jerry Jewell knows he did a good job. I hope somebody told him that.
Mm. Yeah, it feels like one of those things where they probably would have like tried to convince him, like, "Hey, dude, you should keep doing this. You're great."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Meh, I'd rather write."
No, my hand's tired.
Yeah, how do you guys do this all day? So before we go, Sam, I gotta ask, what non-Muppet things did you get to enjoy this week?
Man, I was on the beach all week. I didn't watch shit. I watched the latest episode of Andor. That was basically all I watched, and I loved it. But other than that, Rachel started watching Gilmore Girls again.
Nice.
So I kind of have seen bits and pieces of it as I walk by. Love that show, too. Great place to hang out, Stars Hollow.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the early seasons where it gets a little bit weird later on.
Yeah, that show is pretty much on constant rotation in our house as well, especially in the fall.
Yeah, maybe that is why. Gosh, not much of a fall here, though, huh?
Nah, the only thing falling is the snow.
5 inches while I was on the beach. But yeah, Andor. So check it out. I hear people aren't watching Andor, and I'm like, why not? I gotta watch Andor.
Yeah, you're kind of missing out on some of the best Star Wars that's ever existed.
It'll probably win a bunch of Emmys, and then maybe people will watch it.
It should. Andy Serkis alone should get an Emmy for his performance.
Jeepers creepers. He's so good. I don't naturally like when I see Andy Serkis. Sometimes I think, this guy. But I don't know why I think that. I just do. Even though I loved him as Claw in Avengers and Black Panther, and was sad that he died in that because I think he could have been around more.
Mm-hmm.
But man, he's so freaking good, and he was great as a Gollum. So there's no reason for me to be like, oh, this guy. Maybe it's just because he's not Gollum. But yeah.
I also love that I completely forgot that he was also Snoke.
Oh, yeah, right.
And so he had to come out in an interview and be like, my current character and Snoke are not the same guy. I'm just in the Star Wars universe twice.
Yeah, not until J.J. Abrams gets his hands on him.
And be like, here's the real story.
Yeah. But yeah, that, man, I don't want to spoil it, but that last episode, the ending is so like, oh, God. What happened?
No, it's such a well-made show, which like obviously a lot of the Mandalorian and all of them are well-made shows too, but there's something different about Andor that I can't quite put my finger on that just feels better. And
the writing's just so tight.
The writing is very tight. The directing, the editing, everything just feels better. And more like a movie, maybe, than the TV style of Mandalorian and especially Book of Boba Fett. That just did not, like, as much as I do enjoy The Mandalorian, Andor is just knocking it, like, way down the list.
Yeah. How about you? What did you watch, Matt? That's a more important question.
Well, aside from keeping up with Bake Off's current season, I've mostly been going back and watching a lot of older things, like, been rewatching Boy Meets World recently.
Oh, interesting.
And then also been starting to watch, kind of for the first time, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, how's that going?
Going all right. The first few seasons have some episodes that even the creators are not entirely proud of because of some of the extremely offensive things that they did. But it's an interesting show because the show is about completely horrible people who do a lot of horrible things and say horrible things. And so it's like, okay, is the show being racist or are these characters racist within the show? Kind of thing. And I think earlier on, there's definitely some like, oh yeah,
the line is not drawn as clearly there.
Yes, whereas nowadays it is very clear of like, okay, the characters are idiots who are doing offensive, terrible things, but the show doesn't necessarily paint that as like, isn't that hilarious that these people are racist? So yeah, I'm still in like season 3, and they're on like season like 16 now or whatever. That show's still going.
I can't believe that show is still on.
That show was on when we were in high school.
It has more seasons than any other American live-action comedy series. Wow.
Yeah, it started when we were in high school.
Yeah.
And it's still on. And we are old men.
We are old men. And times were very different in 2005, too.
Yeah.
So I can understand how a lot of that stuff could be not great.
But mostly I got into watching it because it was one of those where I was like, I watched Welcome to Wrexham and was like watching Rob McElhenney. And I was like, I haven't given that show like a really real chance. I stopped watching it in college. I only watched like maybe the first 2 or 3 seasons at all. And then recently they started doing a podcast where the 3 guys from that show are rewatching the show and recapping it. Recapping it is very strong. They basically talk for like...
I've watched clips of that and been like, what are you guys talking about?
They talk about the episode for like 3 minutes out of like the hour-long podcast, and then mostly it's just them bullshitting, which is fun. It's a good podcast, but it is not really a recap podcast.
Yeah. They just look so rich now. It's kind of hard for me to be like, to get into that. But yeah, I've seen the video version where they're sitting around in their like really nice hats.
That's how you know they're rich. They have nice hats.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically all I've been watching. And Andor, which is obviously great. Well, before we go, we need to let you know what we'll be watching next time. And, well, next week, actually, we're taking a week off because I'll be traveling. But the week after that, we'll be back to discuss what the Muppets did from the beginning of 1982 all the way through September of 1982. And it's a weird mix of things again.
Love these grab bag episodes.
Yeah. We'll be watching some brief and some incomplete Muppet TV appearances, including Miss Piggy on Night of 100 Stars, Jim and Kermit on The Today Show singing Being Green, Kermit and Piggy on the 1982 Academy Awards, a Sesame Street performance at the Emmy Awards, and the Muppets tribute to the Second Continental Congress from the I Love Liberty special.
That sounds like a fake thing that Sam the Eagle would want to do.
But surprisingly, that's not all, because all of that only adds up to like 20 minutes of stuff to watch. So our main feature next time will be the 1982 special, The Fantastic Miss Piggy Show, which I've heard very mixed things about.
I have too. I'm tempering my expectations, but it sounds like it would be good.
I think it's just Miss Piggy and George Hamilton hanging out and having a good old time.
That's really weird.
Yeah. So yeah, we will give that a watch, and we will be back with that in a couple of weeks. And before we go, we also need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Don't forget to go to commitment.com to just, look at our website that you don't really need to go to, I guess. I'm trying to think of how to pitch that.
You can if you want to.
You can buy a pin there. You can check out our Patreon page. You can also email us at mail@commitment.com if you have any questions or, again, links to the secret unseen Muppet things. And you can follow the podcast on Twitter for now at CommitmentPod and also Instagram at CommitmentPod. And you can follow me on the internet at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.